A very warm welcome to For Fox's Sake. My name is Pete Selby. Alongside me is John O'Towers, and we're looking back on Leicester's 2-2 draw at the weekend with Stoke City. Slightly disappointing. Was it a point gained? Was it 2 points dropped, etc.? And we'll also preview the Middlesbrough game, which at the time of recording is tomorrow night. It's going to be very difficult. But do get in contact with the podcast. We are live. So if you're watching live on YouTube, you can watch either landscape or portrait as well. So check us out, portrait style. Check us out. And also you can watch on Facebook and on X as well. If you are, do get in contact, send your comments in about the Stoke game, also with a look towards Middlesbrough, and also what your thoughts on Gary Rowett's first game in charge, etc., how Leicester sets up, whether there's positives to take or whether it's just a big negative because of the late goal. Whatever you want to talk about. Also, head over to forfoxsake.news. Very interesting on forfoxsake.news this week. Loads and loads of articles, as usual. And very interesting about a poll at the weekend with hundreds, I think nearly 1,000 votes overall, regarding Harry Winks and about how happy Leicester fans are that he's back involved in the first team squad, but also what would maybe happen with a look to next season. Do we want him to stay, etc.? And it's an interesting poll and interesting results there. And on the back of that, Rob Hayes has written a very nice article regarding Winks' career at Leicester and what the possibilities are for him the rest of this season and also for next season. That's a free article. So if you head over to forfoxsake.news, you can read that article and then check out the rest of the website. Also, we have the latest 5 members, our top 100 club. So we're counting down the top 100 players in Leicester City's history, all-time history. It's taken an absolute age to try and sort this list out. And we've got from numbers 74 down to 70. We include a star from the late 90s. We include someone who I think most people will not have heard of, but maybe should be higher. And we also include a Premier League winner as well. Oh, there we go. The second Premier League winner who have entered the list. So do check that out. There's a nice big bio about every single player, lots of YouTube clips and highlights about them as well. And you'll learn an awful lot. So make sure you head over to forfoxsake.news, have a look at the websites. And of course, it's £5 a month to subscribe, the price of a pint. And for that, you get everything on forfoxsake.news, but also it keeps these podcasts absolutely free. Jono, how are you on this late afternoon on a now what is a wet Monday? How do you feel overall as a City fan right now? Are we slightly elated? Are we a bit disappointed still? What are your thoughts right now, a few days after what happened at Stoke?
Hi, Pete. Yeah, thanks for having me on. How do I feel? A bit frustrated, I'll be honest. But that's just the overall sense of the whole season, to be honest. I mean, Gary Rowett's come in. I think that's been a good appointment. In the longer term, I'm hoping it will pay dividend. He's not a miracle worker by any means, and we've got, a troublesome squad, as we've talked about many times. So I don't know really what I was expecting. However, the scenario that played out in the game, be it conceding after 3 minutes, I wasn't hopeful at all. But then when we drew it back to 2-1 and we're winning, I was thinking, happy days, we're getting a bit of a bounce here. And so, then, with the late equaliser, sort of put a dampener on that. And so I'm sort of a bit mixed, to be honest, about how I feel. I feel like potentially with the scenario in the game and conceding so late, and then also not scoring the winner when we had multiple opportunities to do so, is a little bit like 2 points lost, to be honest. And especially as the position we're in right now, we need to be picking up wins as soon as possible. And I'm sure that hasn't escaped the attention of Gary Rowett. So frustrated that we didn't get the 3 points when they were clearly available, but we didn't get it over the line. Which, so to me, I'm feeling a little bit glass half empty, I suppose. But
yeah,
I agree. At the same time, I'm happy that we haven't lost another game. So.
It's very much the case. We didn't get the clean sheet, and I'm now looking a little bit more positive on what happened. I was Really, really upset after the game. I was, oh, come on, how have we thrown that away? But then also, how did we win at the end? So we've got a few comments already. We've got a Derek who's watching vertically. Again, if you're watching on your phone right now on YouTube, turn your phone portrait style and you'll be able to get us on there now. It's a lovely new feature. Derek, very good afternoon. We need to try someone different at left back. Luca or Skip should be considered for left back. Absolutely, we'll come on to that position especially. Morning from NYC, from New York City. Very good morning. And I was thinking of our centre-back options. Would the returning Suter paired with Ben Nelson be the way forward? I think anyone else paired with Ben Nelson is the way forward, or maybe two other people paired with Ben Nelson, I think is where, especially Jono and myself, we're kind of on the same boat when it comes to that. So absolutely, very good morning to everyone over in America. And also, if you're watching wherever you are around the world, make sure you do put where you are. And also, we've got Davoski as well, regular commenter. Afternoon. One thing about Luke Thomas hates, where were our strikers when Thomas, our left back, was our best chance of winning? Well, let's get straight into it. The Luke Thomas conundrum. I mean, we looked unbelievably shaky from every cross, and that's not just Luke Thomas. That's regarding centre halves, etc. So when it comes to, as we were talking just there, regarding centre halves, we're desperate to get Vestergaard back, desperate to get Jamal Lascelles back, desperate to get Harry Suter back, all three, because Okoli's so unconvincing underneath the high ball, and also Nelson didn't have the greatest game, did he? And also you don't get much cover from fullback. Now, I don't want to give away the Premier League winner, who is in the between 74 and 70 the greatest players of all time who have played for Leicester list on for Fox8.news. But one line that I wrote about him a couple of days ago may have been based on what we've seen in recent days, weeks, months this season. And that is, he was excellent at covering our centre halves from the fullback position in the air. And it's something we don't have. Now, physically, obviously, Thomas, I'll throw Christensen in as well, but I'll leave him into one side. Thomas and Ricardo Pereira, they're not going to be dominant in the air at all. At all. You can be useful. You can position yourself in a certain way where you can make up for your lack of height, for example. And neither of them do. But with Thomas, it is dreadful. When it comes to the second goal, the equalising goal for Stoke, I don't blame him as much as we can blame him for an awful lot of goals this season, because he was left with two men. The centre halves got caught a little bit of ball watching. One of them should have peeled off because there were two players in behind the centre half, which was Nelson, and Thomas had both of them. Whether that's Thomas, who should have called over, don't know, but he was left with two. But the one thing that Thomas maybe should have done, if he knows he's got two men there, is get the ball. You don't then maybe have to get touch tight on one of the players. You have to then get the ball, because you know if you don't, there's no one else there. Okay, so you've got to get the ball, and he didn't do that, and he didn't go with the back man, so it was an equaliser. And then, of course, you go down the other end late on. Crazy last 30 seconds. Aribo nearly scoring, then we hit the bar, and then the cross comes in, and somehow he manages to hit the post, level with the back post, 3 yards out, not even that. But he was unconvincing with that header as well. Now, you could say you headed it down, and that's what everyone's taught. But he was still unconvincing with that header. It was so frustrating. But we need a change of centre halves. But unfortunately, we just don't have them fully fit at the moment, and we're going to suffer with crosses. Now, fortunately, we look dangerous at the other end. But in that first half, it was an absolute shocker, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, all of that you've been describing, we've been seeing all season, and you know, Luke Thomas, I hate to keep slating him. It's horrible
It is.
One of our own to keep admitting that he's just not good enough. And he clearly does. He knows it himself. His confidence is on the floor, which is probably part of the reason why we're seeing what we're seeing. Missing that chance from a few yards out is criminal. For anyone being paid handsomely like a professional footballer, they should be able to hit the target from that position. Don't care what position you're playing in. In terms of the back line, I mean, Thomas isn't by any means the only problem. But yeah, I mean, it frustrates the hell out of me that we've all seen for a long, long time from the stands and through the TV and whatnot, exactly where the problems lie in the squad, and they haven't been addressed. We still haven't got a striker. We haven't got a left back. They were the two primary positions that we needed to recruit for in January. And you could argue back in November, back in the summer, were probably the two positions we also knew needed to be covered, and we didn't. So it just boils back to really, really poor recruitment and really poor strategy and planning from whoever it is that's bringing the players in, and Rudkin, etc. So it's very, very frustrating when we've all seen it. We've seen it for such a long time.
One thing though, John,
now, aren't we? So
yeah, that's the thing. It is frustrating, but we know where we are. We're in the relegation zone. We're a point behind West Brom, who do look poor as well. Runs being made by other sides. There's still quite a long way to go. I was talking today at work, and we were referring to, because we're talking about Monday morning, talk about promotion races, relegation, Premier League, etc. And I was saying we're not quite in that category. I was referring to, say, Arsenal actually in the Premier League title race, and all the headlines are about that maybe aren't the bottlers, and it's a horrible term because we've got so long to go, and just because you draw a game, you haven't bottled it. And then when I was talking about the relegation dogfights in the Championship, I was saying that there's actually a long way to go. So I know the teams above us are on a run, but we've still got over 10 games to go. So there's a long time to get a run going, to get some wins on the board. Now, I'm not saying that you got to put your hands up in the air and say everything's going to be fine, but people are looking at other people's results at the moment. I think until we get down to single figures, for me, I just want to concentrate on Leicester. Everyone else can do what they're going to do, okay? But for us, we've got to turn our form around. And just one thing about what we were talking about with Thomas. We've got a comment here with a front two would share the workload, too much for one, too much for Vardy last season. And also, just to clear up the point on the strikers in the last minute, at least he was there, not our strikers. Absolutely correct. He was in the right place. And that's the one thing you can't fault Thomas for, and that's the efforts. It's just the execution, isn't it? It isn't there. And he's a player. He's one of those players who, when you get a young player come through and they're in a really good side, and they look quite settled and competent, surrounded by very good players who are playing good football and are quite successful, you think that, well, that young player also is to that standard. And then all of a sudden, when the side drops and that player all goes down as well, their quality goes down, you think, hang on, you were brilliant when you were young. And people will look back and say, well, he's won the FA Cup, but was he carried by that team? Was he a young player who's ultimately got his confidence is unbelievably fragile? And he's full of cause. But unfortunately, at the moment, we've got to be looking forward. We've got to be looking for what we've got and how we can make this team better. I think the conversation about what happened in January with the transfer window and also before this season, I think we almost have to just put that on the bookshelf for now and look forward. And that's really where I think we can look positively, because in that second half, I thought Leicester played very well. Mikasa was quite quiet in the first half. Second half, played really well. Dangerous, curling ball in, actually went all the way through and scored. And a lovely back heel flick for Winks. That shows confidence. Winks playing well, anchoring that midfield and spreading the ball around in the second half. Aribo coming on and adding a bit of physical presence and also looking dangerous when coming forward into the box. And all of a sudden, when balls came in, you all of a sudden had someone there who had a little bit of size, a little bit of aerial ability, which is something we've lacked in a centre forward for a number of years. And all of a sudden, Leicester looked really confident and should have gone on and won the game, as we mentioned late on. But does that second half performance give you a lot of hope that ultimately Leicester will probably end up, if they do win games this season, they'll just have to score more goals than the other, because basically they're going to score. We just can't keep clean sheets at the moment. And with the defence that we've got, i.e. with the two centre-halves, with Nelson and with Okoli, I just can't see them keeping clean sheets. And, of course, the fullbacks, mainly the fullbacks. But without your Souters, without your Jamal Lascelles, without your Vestergaards dealing with those crosses, I just can't see us at all keeping a clean sheet until they come in. So it might well be that attack is the best form of defence because we don't have one.
I wouldn't be confident going for that strategy thinking that we would survive by trying to outscore everyone. I think ultimately the manager has got to somehow get some sort of working back four together. We aren't going to stay up if we don't keep clean sheets, and it's been so long now. It's almost a monkey on the back, isn't it, that they need to get rid of, I think. So I think it has to be that we have to find a way to be more solid and be more resilient and to keep the ball out of the net. People say in football that the defense is the easiest thing to sort out. Scoring goals is the difficult bit, being creative. Now, we should have enough in that squad with supposedly international quality players that aren't anymore, but have played a lot of Premier League and Championship level football. There should be enough in there and enough now in the management as well now to be able to put something together to make something work. And that has to be the underlying priority for the rest of the season, is keep it tight and try as best as we can to keep the ball out of the net. Now, it's not always going to work, but if we're shipping one goal a game, that's an improvement on 50% or 100%. If you're shipping two a game, in most cases we are, two or more. If we're only shipping one, then you're giving yourself a good chance. But clean sheets, at least you're getting a point a game if we're not scoring. So it has to be the case that we've got to start getting clean sheets, and that is exactly what the manager's bread and butter is. So I'm expecting a big improvement, and if we don't see one in the next, I'd say 3 games, then I don't know if the writing's on the wall. I don't know whether I'm being a bit too pessimistic with 13 games to go, 12, 13 games to go. I think.
I mean, I don't think you can be too pessimistic. We're in the relegation zone. We've got 6 points taken off us, possibly even more by a Premier League who are really going for the jugular. We've not kept a clean sheet since the King was a kid, and it's a real mess at the moment. Our centre halves are all injured, and we've got fullbacks. And I'll just, one at least on one side who underneath the high ball is just not going to win a single header or anything. And it seems like the centre halves are letting players free on far post, near post, not tracking any runs. The amount of ball watching in our defence is quite ridiculous. Yeah. But going forward, I was impressed with Ricardo at the weekend. I thought going forward looked very handy. Nice little interplay with. Also, you can see with Ricardo as well, when he looks up and he's got winks, and especially the last, say, 15, 20 minutes, he's got winks on his inside. Then also he's got Mikasa all of a sudden full of confidence. And then eventually Aribo one. All of a sudden, it was almost like he looked up and went, there's some decent players alongside me now. And he started to get forward and look really dangerous down that right side. Nice little 1-2s, etc. And hang on, all of a sudden we've got a player back who we know is an excellent footballer, just not the footballer that he was. So it looked very positive. I thought Winks played very well. And again, going forward, we look dangerous. We've got players who can hurt opposition. We're missing a few. Question here from Richard West: when is Jordan James back from injury? Well, he's meant to be back at the end of March or roughly, but it might be a little bit earlier, said Gary Rowett. So that's interesting, and hopefully he is back. Hopefully they don't rush him back, but we do need him, don't we? Also we've got fullbacks are not there to win headers, are they? Well, they're not there to win headers. I would disagree, because if you're a fullback and the cross is coming in from one side, your job is then to mark the furthest guy in the penalty area. You've got to come across and at least get in the position where you can challenge for a header. At the moment, these fullbacks get nowhere near that, and the amount of crosses that Leicester, first of all, concede, but the amount of crosses that the fullbacks have to come across. First of all, they're left with 2 players. Second of all, you don't have to win the header, but you can get touch tight on a man. But then if you have got 2 players, as I said with Thomas, you've got to realise the situation, and that's not what they're realising at all. And if that's the case, get the ball. You've got to go for the ball. And again, that ball's in swinging, high, dipping towards the far post. He doesn't need to be 6'6" to win the header. In the end, the ball was touched in only a foot from the ground. It was no height. It's again the positional sense, and the positional sense from crosses in the Leicester defence is absolutely ridiculous.
I think
I'm not always going to throw Thomas under the bus though, because again, the centre halves, the amount of balls that they let go over their head, or also players run across them. Think of the Ross Stewart goal against for the first goal of 4 against Southampton. One guy in the penalty area, a guy who doesn't make any movement. He's not a very agile centre forward anymore. He's been ravaged by injuries. He's not quick. He moves about 3 yards from next to Okoli. Okoli just stands there, flicks ball back in the net. I mean, fully enough, he scored a very similar goal at the weekend, but with his head, but there was no one next to him. Ball watching, it's absolutely dreadful in our defence. I don't know how it's happened or how it's led to this, but the amount of free runs from players in our penalty area across in front of a player, it's quite ridiculous. And of course, if that's the case, you're going to overload the far side. You're going to say to a winger or say to an attacking fullback, get round the back, because guess what? They're going to be probably preoccupied with these players in the penalty area. They're more than likely going to leave them anyway. Get round the back. And of course, what did Stoke do? They just pinged every single ball wide and then got the ball in as quickly as they could, because they know Leicester just can't defend it at all.
I think the problems compound as well, because teams absolutely have studied and know where our weaknesses lie. So the fact that they know that, they overload those sides, especially Luke Thomas's side. I've seen it all season where teams are targeting that side because they know that's where the chances will come. But the other point I want to make is that how many times have I seen under Marty, and I've been screaming in the stand about how fullbacks should be much, much closer to their wingers and they're giving them 20 yards of space to whip the ball in. You got to stop the cross at source in many cases and try to stop the ball coming in, and that isn't happening either. So it's all well and good trying to deal with a cross that comes in, and if they're good balls in, then they're difficult to deal with, and you're not going to stop them all. But you've got to stop the ball coming in the first place, which is what we've just not done at all. Even when Chowdhury was playing like right back, I've seen some games where he's just trotting around, letting the ball fly in. I can't remember exactly the games. Was it Wrexham where he played right back and just got absolutely mugged? So whether it's a system problem, whether it's a mentality problem across the whole group, I don't know, because you're seeing it with the same problems with all of the players that play out wide. Victor Christensen was the same when he was playing. So I don't know what the answers are. It's not my job to know, but Gary Rowett hopefully is the man to put some of this right.
And also, I would look at the goalkeeper as well. Now, Begovic played, and I'm a huge believer in if people want a defence to change, and they're saying change the fullback, change the centre halves, sometimes a changing goalkeeper can miraculously keep a clean sheet, because the defence, the relationship between the goalkeeper and defence is very important. And if there's two different goalkeepers, it can change. You look back in the days of Kasper Schmeichel, any ball that came in, he's going to leave because he's got two centre halves going to head the ball clear. Begovic, probably down to old age, he's not going to really come for a lot of crosses. And you could argue both goals, maybe. He could have come for that second goal especially. But because of that, the defence need to realise that. So they need to realise that this goalkeeper is going to stay on his line. So they need to clear the ball. Again, go for the ball. You've got to be able to clear the ball. You've got to be able to head the ball clear. You've got to get yourself in a position where obviously there's going to be crosses. There's someone's going to be able to whip a ball in, and ultimately you're going to go, oh, God, I'm not going to get this. It happens. It happens in football. You know, it will concede goals. But also, you've got to realise what you've got behind you. And so maybe there's a communication problem there. Maybe it's a case that the goalkeeper needs to say, look, I know he needs to be told it. He knows he's an old age, but you need to command your 6-yard box a little bit better, because A, the opposition are going to whip balls in all the time. But secondly, we haven't got the defence at the moment to head it clear, or to clear underneath a high ball, or to cover a run from any centre forward with even someone who doesn't possess a lot of pace. Now, that's the defence. We've spoken a lot about the defence and the game on Saturday. There were obviously good things to take out. The movement in the second half, the team talk, obviously, by Rowett must have given them a real rollicking at half-time. And they did respond. Let's just bring a few more people in. We've got Andy from For Fox's Sake saying, because of the inability of our fullbacks, we should go to a back three, which we, of course, certainly agree with there. And especially if Ricardo's kicked into a bit of gear going forward. Nice option at wing back. Derek going, I heard that JJ might be back on the bench tomorrow night. Well, we shall see. Fingers crossed. Also, we've got Dallas Fox's Charles. We should have targeted at number 7 after Buster with Thomas. He was a hothead. Yeah, game management. But yeah, it was so disappointing. So disappointing. Rowett being an ex-defender, he should know how to improve our defending. Absolutely. And fingers crossed, after more than 3 days on the training ground, he can bring it together. And I'm sure he will be in private talking to Callum Davis and Andy King, bemoaning the fact that he's got Yannick Vestergaard and Lascelles on the treatment table rather than on the field. But we're going to Middlesbrough. It's not the best place to go this season because they are second in the league. Middlesbrough playing some good stuff, but they are on a little bit of a slide. They lost away at Coventry, who then leapfrogged them in the league, and then drew 0-0 at home against Oxford at the weekend. An interesting scoreline, but maybe we could be the team that they'll be looking at going, hang on, we can bounce back with a win against Leicester. The one thing with Middlesbrough, I wouldn't say they're the side who would naturally chuck the ball into the penalty area at all opportunity, but they do possess a number of interesting players going forward. Like Conway's a player, but yeah, it's going to be a very tricky tie away at Boro. It's not the place to go, Jono, when you're scrapping around at the bottom, is it? A side who want to bounce back after a couple of disappointing results and are still in a title race. It's not ideal, is it?
Yeah, I mean, you could look at the recent results in two ways, couldn't you? Either they've lost top spot and they're gunning to try and get it back, and therefore will turn up and absolutely, try their best and try their hardest to pummel us, or are they on a mini slide? I mean, Coventry went through a mini slide a few weeks ago, didn't they? And back to winning ways again. So whether we're actually meeting them, and this is me being uber hopeful, we're meeting them during a slight mini slide, and the fact that they drew against Oxford, who are probably as bad as we are in terms of league position, certainly, that gives me a little bit of hope that with a bit of a spring in our step, with some new tactics at the back and Rowett having a few more days on the training pitch, that we might see a bounce this time round. I'm by no means saying that that's what will happen, but this is me just being, I guess the ever football fan being hopeful, the hope that kills you, isn't it? That hopefully we'll get the 3 points we need. And then, and if we get 4 points from these two games, you would have said that's a decent result. I would have hoped to have beaten Stoke, and then maybe hoped to get a draw against Middlesbrough. So if we can switch those two results around, then I think that will give us an awful lot of confidence against a team at the top of the table, but in a league where, let's be honest, most teams can beat most teams. I don't think there's a massive disparity in quality between the top and the bottom. Obviously, we're seeing ourselves as being in awful form, but if you actually offered a lot of our squad to Middlesbrough, would they take our players? You'd probably say yes, they would. So on paper, which is always a difficult thing to say, you'd say that we've got a good matchup against them if we can get things sorted out at the back. And that showed against them in the King Power as well, didn't we? Where we could have and should have beaten them, frankly, at the King Power earlier in the season. So who knows?
It'll be interesting to see how they line up for the most of the season. And from what I've seen them and commented on them, and they've had a flat back four, and then they've gone 3-3 in front of them. They can play a quite a strange, actually, almost like a flat back four, and then very rigid, almost like 2-2-2 in a strange way going forward. It depends on who's available for them, because obviously it's a quick turnaround as well. In terms of selection, Jono, what would you like to see? Now, I know we're both big advocates for a back three, and I still think that should be the case. And Aluko could come into a back three, and then maybe have Thomas further forward, or Christensen if he's fit, on the left, and then of course you've got Ricardo on the right, and the rest of the side roughly picks itself. And there's one player, which is what Dallas Fox's Charles has said: start Richards, drop Daka. I would argue play both, because I think Daka, as much as Daka is Daka, can't trap a sandbag, etc. We all know, don't we, everyone? But what he does have is pace. He can stretch a defense on a counter attack. And also pick up maybe a back pass, etc., as we saw the other week. But it's against Southampton. We know what his limitations are, but I still would like to have that pacey option there, especially away somewhere like at Middlesbrough, where you want someone to be buzzing around their defence, putting pressure on them. You don't want them to be knocking the ball around nonchalantly in their back line. At least Daka will play a bit of a chase the ball scenario. And again, alongside someone like Richards, I can see that working, especially if you play 3-5-2. So that's the way I would go. What would you like to see, Jono?
So we have discussed the back three several times this season, but at the moment, with all the centre-backs we've got out, I can't see where we've got the personnel to play a back three and play a back three with confidence. You know, if we had Lascelles, if we had Vestergaard fit, and even Harry Souttar fit, then you could make an argument for playing all three of them across the
Absolutely.
back line. Quite what you do with wing backs, I'm not quite sure whether Fataru and Mavididi are quite in the mould to play like the Steve Guppy role, or you know the Andy Impey kind of role. I don't know. They're a bit more attacking than that, aren't they? So I've got a little visitor here.
And that's all right. What you want to do, Jono? You want to ask him, like, do you think Mavididi should be on as a wing back, or do you think it should be possibly Luke Thomas on that side? What do you reckon?
I'm not sure that Alex really knows the answer.
Yeah, I'd say the one thing I would say with Mavididi, I think he was quite unlucky actually with that shot. I thought he was going to bend in the far corner, but
I don't know the answer.
No,
you don't know the answer. Well, I'm afraid none of us do, really. To be perfectly honest, we're all clutching at straws here, aren't we? Hey, it's live, everyone. Now you know it's live.
Sorry, sports fans.
That's all right. No, it's great stuff. Obviously you do lose the option. I mean, for Tarwu, not in the squad. You do lose obviously someone like Mavididi at wing back if you were to play someone like Thomas there. But the midfield, I think, would pick itself. I would quite like to see. Obviously, Mikasa is in that forward position of the midfield three. Even if you are playing a 4-2-3-1, he would still be that link player. And then, of course, if they're not ready to start Richards for whatever reason, I can't see any reason why not, because he's come off the bench and that. So you've got Joe Aribo. And I've said when we did sign Joe Aribo, he's a very versatile player. In certain scenarios, I think he'd be very useful as a forward. I don't know about starting him maybe in a forward position, but if you were going to play two, again, he gives you another option. He's a very... I was going to say competent footballer, but he is a competent footballer. He's experienced. He can score goals. He's shown that in his past. And if you're going to employ him alongside another player, maybe in a more 10 position as a link player, he could be a very valuable player to have further forward, again, with that little bit of height. But the one thing that Rowett does have, he has options now. When you look at these players, you look at Mavididi, Fatawu, Mikasa, with Aribo, Daka, Richards, and then behind them, what more than likely, and fingers crossed, is a settled back two in a midfield of Winks and Skip. So it looks like we do have plenty of options going forward, with Jordan James hopefully coming back, Decordova-Reid back from suspension as well for this game. So there is an awful lot of players there to rely on going forward or call upon. But the problems are, of course, at the back. So when I look to what you think is going to happen against Middlesbrough, are we looking at trying to do an Oxford and draw 0-0 there? Or are we looking at this game going, we need to be on our front foot here? Because first of all, we have the players. We know we've had the players. We know we can score goals in this league. But the problems are at the back. What do? Do we try and shut up shop? Or are we flinging the doors wide open, just like into your office there, and trying to go and score as many goals as we can because we know we're just going to concede?
I'd like to feel like we would have a go at them, to be honest, with a more solid backline at the same time. So I don't think we should be going into the game scared, or should be scared of them. As we played against them earlier in the season, we could and should have probably beaten them, as I said. I don't think that they're a leap ahead in terms of quality that we've got. Certainly going forward, we've got an awful lot of options, like you say. So I think you could argue the attack is maybe the best form of defence at this moment in time, but still focus on the fact that when there is a need to defend, that we do defend and we do defend in the right ways. So in other words, cutting out the ball watching, cutting out the and getting bodies on the line, getting heads on the ball, all of the dirty stuff that you need to do to try and keep a clean sheet. That might not work, but in the meantime, I think let's go out and give a good account for ourselves. And we've got enough quality. We should have enough quality going forward to give them some trouble. So I don't think that I think that should be the game plan. Is let's not go there and try and shut up shop, because we know what will happen if we try to do that. We haven't got the quality in the back line at the moment to be able to go there and keep a clean sheet for 90 minutes. So I think we have to go and have a go at them.
Yeah, I think so. And it's not, we're not talking about full out attack here, gung ho style, but playing our game when we have the ball, not being afraid to make forward runs, not being afraid to have someone like Winks join in an attack and be that base of when Leicester get the ball and they're 25, 30 yards from goal and he's the link man in the centre, not staying back. So it's not the number 10 or the advanced midfielder who's playing that role. They're in the penalty area. And if it's a Rebo, he's in the penalty area to get on the end of a cross. Having the fullbacks, if we're playing fullbacks, go forward. So having Ricardo join in the attack, I think that's what we're talking about. Just like we were playing towards the end of the second half against Stoke, not being afraid to attack, not going gun-ho, and obviously being very tight at the back, hopefully for the first period of time, because again, Middlesbrough, they drew at the weekend against Oxford and they lost away at Coventry, so maybe the locals might be getting a little bit worried regarding trying to win the league and maybe with automatic, etc. So it could be a chance to maybe get something on Riverside. But a few comments there. Luke Thomas will make a better wing back than a left winger. Oh, a better wing back or left winger. Skippy as sweeper, I'm maybe, but perfectly honest, I think if you threw a sweeper system at Caleb Okoli, he would look at you incredibly puzzled. So I wouldn't be too sure about that. I wouldn't be too sure about that at all. It might work in a very strange scenario with say a Lascelles Vestergaard centre half partnership, or maybe even throw a Suter in there as well. A sweeper system in that sense might work, but I wouldn't like to see Caleb Okoli. We've been looking around him the whole time. What are you doing there? He wouldn't have a clue what they're doing anyway. Yes, we shall see. Andy though made a good point. He came out of the game at Stoke with a little buzz because we were in front. We did play very well in the second half, and again, Rowett has only been there for a few days. The first half performance was dreadful, but the team talks obviously worked against a very poor Stoke side. So there's lots of positives to take. There are lots of positives to take. What do you think is going to happen, Jono? I want a score prediction from you, and I want a score prediction from everybody. So everybody watching right now, if you've not commented, comment now with a score. That's all I want to know. What do you think is going to happen against Middlesbrough? I've got a scoreline which I think you may laugh and probably call the White Coats to come and get me. Go on, Jono.
So I'm going to have faith that Gary Rowett has done some drills, and I'm not going to go clean sheet, but I'm going to say that we will only concede one goal. And I think that we've got enough quality to get two. So I think that there's a bit of a surprise or maybe a shock that we could spring here. I've got colleagues that are Coventry fans, and they're all hoping that we can do them a favour as well. I hope we can do ourselves a favour, to be honest, by getting 3 points on the board. Well overdue 3 points, frankly. So hopefully onwards and upwards from here, and we can get 3 points, build some confidence, and start moving up the league. And I think if we do get 3 points, then bring on Norwich at home.
Yeah, and that looks a very interesting game at the weekend. Very interesting. Now, later in the week, we'll be covering the game against Middlesbrough, and also we'll have the preview regarding Norwich. Finally, before I reveal my scoreline and everybody's scoreline, a final plug for Fox's Sake .news. There's the free article on there regarding Harry Winks, written by Rob Hayes, going over his career at Leicester, where it's gone wrong, where it's gone right, and what the future might hold regarding our very interesting poll on X. Make sure you do follow us on X at FFS Pod, and also you can follow our YouTube channel as well. But for Fox8.news, head over there and you can see the free article, and then you can take a huge browse throughout the site and see all the articles on there, all the features, all the interesting comments, and also articles regarding Leicester City women as well. And also you can read the latest on our top 100 Leicester players counting down, and we're now down to number 70. And again, that latest bunch of 5, including a Premier League winner and a star from the late 90s. So make sure you check out for Fox8.news. It costs £5. And what that does, it keeps these podcasts absolutely free, but £5 a month, price of a pint, and it covers absolutely everything on for Fox8.news. Brilliant mobile site as well. So if you're on your mobile, head over to for Fox8.news. Brilliant layouts, looks fantastic, and some really interesting stuff on there, and loads more to come. You need to be a member though, so make sure you do sign up. Now, I think the men in the white coats are going to be having a bit of a job on over the next 24 hours, because there's plenty of corners of the globe they need to go to. Okay, we've got Dallas, Fox's Charles. You've gone for 1-1. So maybe just a phone call from the white coats. No, not quite the visit. We've got 2-0. I think that's going to go for the home side. I'm going to go 2-0. Andy has gone 2-1 Leicester, the same as you, Jono. So, Andy, they're going to be knocking at your door. Planet Earth, they're going to come around your place. 2-0. Oh, my God, they're going to come around. They're going to camp in your front garden, because 2-0, a clean sheet and a victory away at Middlesbrough. You've started early today, haven't you? Anyway, we've got another one here. 2-0, Daka to score nothing again. We've gone for an away win now. We've got Richard West. I fancy a 2-1 win for City. What's going on? I have no idea. We've also got we should play 4-4-2 with Richards and Daka the front two. Leicester to win 2-0. Yes, absolutely. 4-4-2 in that system with those two up front. I've been advocating that for the last 18 months, really. And also a 2-1 to City for Paulo Estivo. And 2-1 seems to be the theme. I'm not going to go. Oh, actually, we've got confirmation on that. Sorry, 2-0 Leicester. Finally keep a clean sheet so the white coats can come round to yours as well after they've done with Andy and pretty much everyone else. Well, I was going to go for a Leicester win as well, and I thought I was going to be in a on my own in this. It's not the case. I'm going to go 3-2. I'm going to go 3-2. I have no faith at all that we're going to keep a clean sheet, especially at a classy side in the championship level with Middlesbrough. But I think that Leicester can go toe-to-toe, and I think it might be one of those games that goes 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, that sort of thing. And then maybe late on, when it's 2-2, it's us who score late, and I'm going to go for a 3-2 win. And I'm liking the Richards option, actually, and I'm thinking maybe he could be the winner. I think the turnaround for Leicester will be through these young guns. Mikasa looks a very impressive player, a very confident player. I know he didn't play too well in the first half, but he's 18 years old. But in the second half, he's shown already what he can do, and he shows his quality, and he shows his confidence at this level. Fingers crossed that we get something from Middlesbrough, but make sure you stick with us here on Fox8.news, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at the game against Norwich later in the week with the preview with Rob Hayes. And we're talking about our glorious victory at Middlesbrough, possibly. Jono, final thoughts?
One comment coming in saying Leicester fans are delusional. Well, yeah, quite possibly. Yeah, I mean,
sums it up quite well, doesn't it? Really.
I don't think we honestly really know what is going to happen. I mean,
Absolutely.
we could see anything from this team. We could see a capitulation through to a 3-0 win, or anything in between. So who knows? I mean, it would be nice to say that's part of the roller coaster ride and that's part of being a Leicester City fan, but I'd rather be more certain about what we're going to be doing. So let's just wait and see, I suppose, and let's just have our hopes on Gary Rowett drilling the players and getting the best out of them and start bringing that defense together. That's That's the key to it all.
Yeah, exactly. And also with regards to what's happening against Norwich at the weekend, go back and listen. You can listen to these podcasts on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Just type in for Fox 8, you'll find us on there. But also you can watch my interview with the Unite for Change last week. So the planned protest is against Norwich on Saturday. And hopefully a win against Middlesbrough might quell some anger, if there's going to be any anger. Obviously, it's a peaceful protest, etc. So listen back to my interview with a member of Unite for Change about what's going to happen on Saturday. There's plenty of articles written on for fox8.news regarding what's going to happen. And, of course, we'll have all the latest news. And again, on for fox8.news, it's not just the latest news, it's the deep dive. It's the long read articles where there's plenty of research been done, talking to the right people, and then put on paper for you or on screen for you to then read on for fox8.news. So plenty of news happening at Leicester. As usual, it's never dull. And fingers crossed, hopefully we're all happy when it comes to the preview against Norwich. Thanks, Jono. Thanks, everybody, for watching live and for listening back if you are. And fingers crossed you're listening back on the back of a win. Hopefully it's 3-2. And the men in the white coats, they just can have a cup of tea and they don't take us.